Namaskar girls. Today we are going to discuss about the last lesson, which is ironically the first lesson of your main textbook Flamingo. The last lesson is one of the best known stories of Alphonse Daudet. It shows the change in France's fortunes through the eyes of a young Alsatian boy and his last French lesson. The setting is in an unnamed town in Alsace, and the story takes place near the beginning of the Prussian occupation of Alsace and Lorraine in about 1873. The last lesson is a sentimental story of national pride and the importance of education and how it is a privilege for some alone. It is a simple story from the memory of a young schoolboy, Franz. The story also makes a point of not taking education for granted. The narrator describes how sorry he was for not learning his lessons upon discovering that M. Hamel was to be replaced. An important link is made between language, linguistic chauvinism, education, and national pride, suggesting perhaps the love for one's country is also something that should not be taken for granted. Although dated due to its context, the last lesson holds a contemporary relevance and is an emotionally powerful story dealing with great issues in a simple narrative. Let's start with the story. Little Franz, a young schoolboy, is the narrator of the story The Last Lesson. Having got a late start on a beautiful warm morning, Franz rushed to school. He was fearful that Hamel would scold him because he was late and had not prepared his French lesson on participles. He even contemplated running away and spending the day outdoors, but eventually did not succumb to temptation and hastened off to school. On his way to school, Franz passed through the town square and noticed a crowd where the news was displayed. Franz recalled that for the last 2 years, the news displayed there had been unwelcome. He wondered what it was this time but hurried off to school. The village blacksmith remarked there was enough time for him to reach school, and it made him feel that it was possibly a sarcasm on his part, since he was already very late. Unlike every day, the school was uncannily calm, uncannily, strangely. Usually, there used to be a great commotion caused by the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in chorus, or the teacher's ruler rapping on the table. Franz had planned to sneak into the class, taking advantage of the commotion, but his hopes were dashed, destroyed. Peeping in, he saw his classmates already in their places and Hamel, his teacher, walking to and fro with his iron ruler under his arm. Franz opened the door, embarrassed and frightened, but much to his amazement, M. Hamel looked at him very kindly and told him to take his place. As he sat down, he noticed his teacher, dressed formally in his green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap. Hamel was known to wear the dress that too only on formal occasions. He also noticed that the back benches that were always empty was filled with the villagers. He noticed Olhauser, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others. All of them looked sad. He sat wondering till he heard Hamel announce that there was an order from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Hence, it was to be their last lesson in French. Franz realized that the crowd he earlier saw gathered at the town square was milling over to read this news. Franz barely knew any French, and he realized that he would not have to learn it anymore from then on. But strangely, he was sorry for not learning his lessons. His books that had seemed such a bother till a while back seemed precious to him. He felt sad at the thought of Hamel going away. Franz realized that the old men of the village were sitting there because they were sorry that they had not gone to school for longer. They also wanted to thank Hamel for his 40 years of faithful service and show their respect for the country that was now not theirs. Just then, Hamel asked Franz to recite the rules of participles. Franz could not and was very nervous. He expected Hamel to scold him, but much to his surprise, Hamel reasoned that Franz must be feeling terrible himself for having postponed his lessons as he no longer had the opportunity of doing so. Franz's identity of a Frenchman was challenged as he could neither speak nor write his own language. Hamel blamed everyone for the situation. He felt that the parents were not keen that the children studied. They preferred the children to work in order to earn a little more money. He also blamed himself for sending Franz to water his flowers instead of having him learn the lessons. He was sorry for giving the students a day off whenever he wanted to go fishing. Procrastination was what had taken its toll. French, said Hamel, was the most beautiful language in the world. It was the clearest and the most logical. It had to be guarded. He felt that when people are enslaved, their language is like the key to their prison. Hamel taught grammar for the last time. Franz was surprised to see how well he understood it. He realized that earlier neither had he listened so carefully nor had Hamel explained with so much patience. That day he wanted to share all his knowledge before going away. They had a lesson in writing following the grammar lesson. Hamel gave them new copies on which was written France Alsace in beautiful handwriting. Everyone started working very quietly. Franz wondered whether the pigeons on the roof would also be made to sing in German. Here, when Franz wondered whether they would even make the pigeons, they, the Prussians, the Germans, would even make the pigeons sing in German, he is using a metaphor. It's symbolic to mean that the French language was as natural to them as cooing was to the pigeons, robbing them of their right to speak in their own tongue and forcing the German language on the people of France would call for unnatural practice, and this is what we can call is linguistic chauvinism. Franz then looked up to see M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair. It seemed as if he wanted to take in everything in that little schoolroom. 40 years it must have broken his heart to leave the country, but he was determined to teach till the very last moment. During their last lesson in history, Franz noticed that Hauser had put on his spectacles and was trying to spell the letters. He could see him crying and his voice trembling with emotion. Each one of them in that classroom felt equally emotional. Franz never forgot the last lesson. At 12, it was time for the class to get over. They could hear the trumpets of the Prussians returning from drill. Hamel stood up, looking tall, never before, confident though sad. But he could not talk as he was choked with emotions. All he could do was to write on the blackboard, Viva la France. Then he took support of the wall and without a word signaled to them to leave. A poignant end of a beautiful story where people are politically defeated but not ready to give up their pride. Because language is not a medium of communication, it is your identity, it is you. Thank you.